Hey everyone, this is Bridgette Rays, and I'm here with another stylish answer to a question from a reader. This one this week is coming from someone who's been reading my newsletter for 10 years. Her name is Maureen, and I was really happy to get a question from her and be able to thank her for her loyalty by answering this. And it's actually it's a good question and something that doesn't get addressed ever on any fashion blogs or magazines, so I'm happy to answer this for her. And her question is, if you have to use a cane, how can you look professional, stylish, chic, etc.? She tells me, I had a catastrophic riding accident in July after parting from my horse at great speed and from a great height. I spent more than a month in 3 different hospitals, 8 broken ribs, 5 fractured vertebrae, 1 collapsed lung, and another traumatic brain injury. When I finally got home, I had to use a walker until recently. And then she wrote, so you see I'm letting you off the hook just asking about the cane. Well, thanks for that, Maureen. But the first thing I obviously want to say is thank God you're okay. Thank God you're okay. It sounds like the recovery has been traumatic and hard and painful, but we all know that there have been many horseback riding injuries that have definitely been much worse. People have died from horseback riding injuries. So thank God you're here. You're slowly recovering, and given that you've gone now from walker to cane, we can only hope for and expect that you'll have continued recovery. So I will definitely be thinking about you during this time. I wanted to answer this question because I've been asked this before. You're not the first person to ask me how to deal with being stylish when you're dealing with a cane or something as extreme as being wheelchair bound, and how to deal with it. And obviously, it's never really touched on in many fashion blogs or magazines. So. And even though we've been corresponding for the past 10 years, and you've been such a loyal reader of my newsletter and blogs, we've never met. So I don't know enough about you personally, your personal style. I don't even know what you look like to be able to give you something very specific. But I have to think about for myself, or if I had a client who came to me, what would I do? And the first thing I would do is look at a cane like an accessory. If I was going to be using a cane for a prolonged amount of time, like it sounds like you are, I would want that cane to be an extension and a reflection of my own style, as opposed to this thing that just sticks out like a sore thumb that I hate and reminds me about how miserable. I mean, the situation is not ideal, and I'm certainly not minimizing it. But this happens in life where we have to deal with things that aren't ideal and just make the best of it. And if that was the case, what I would do is really look to, can I find a cane that really personifies or encapsulates something about my personal style? Like, look, if Hermes had a cane and I needed to use one, I'd find out a way to get that cane. So that would be my bit of advice. Or can you take an existing cane and do something to it that reflects your style? Can you get it in a color? Can you get it in a material? Can you get something that is a little bit more unique? Again, it's not about saying that this is not traumatic or difficult or that you don't like it, but at least you're making the best of it. And when I read your email and got your question, I actually thought immediately about a client of mine, and I wanted to share quickly about her because I think she's inspirational for me, and I think for anyone who has something that they don't necessarily want. And it doesn't have to be a disability. It could be something like you have a flat chest, or you have large thighs, or you have fat ankles and you can't find boots that fit. This client of mine has been wheelchair bound her whole entire life, and I've been working with her. She was one of my very first clients, and we've been working together on and off for the past 10 years, and I'm so grateful to know her on more than just on a client level. I enjoy time with her. I'm inspired by her every time I meet her. She's fun. She's great. The thing that I love most about her, though, is while this is a disability that's been with her whole entire life. I have never seen anyone more unapologetic, anyone who does not perceive themselves as a victim, anyone who just goes through life. She's Ivy League educated, advanced educated. She's been extremely successful in her career. She has an amazing sense of style, and she has never let the fact that she's in a wheelchair stop her. And the interesting thing is, her level of comfort with what she perceives as a disability, as what the world perceives as a disability, and at what she has as a disability, how she perceives it and her comfort with it is what makes everyone else automatically comfortable with her. So I tell you that story, Maureen, because not to say that in any way do you sound like a victim or anything, but I think in general, we all have things that we'd rather not have and rather not deal with. We think if we didn't have it, life would be easier. And we sort of go through life thinking, if only I had a bigger chest, it would be so much easier to get dressed. To things as extreme as if I didn't have to carry a cane or wasn't in a wheelchair, that it would be so much easier. And if there's anything that this particular client has taught me, it's that it's never about that. It's about how we perceive what it is we're dealing with and how we cope with it. Because we'll never have everything exactly the way we want it. And nobody is given exactly what they want in life. And even if something's temporary or for the rest of our lives, we have to learn to cope. People with curly hair want straight hair. People with no chest want a large chest. People with a large chest will tell you they want a small chest. People with thin calves will tell you they can't find boots that don't make them look like a pirate. And then people with large calves can't get them zipped up. We all have something. So I know we're straying a little bit from your question, Maureen, but I wanted to really touch on this because I think it's the thing in life that keeps us from being stylish is the fact that we don't accept, and again, even if it's temporary, what it is we have at the moment and think to ourselves, I'm going to make this the best that I can. So instead of wishing for things to be different, and I'm not saying that you're doing this, Maureen, just in general, instead of wishing for something to be different and then waiting around for it to hopefully change, do we work with what we have now? And that is truly acceptance. Acceptance doesn't mean we give up. Acceptance means that we embrace what it is right now. So back to your question, that's why I'm saying to you about using a cane. It's about making the best of it. And that I truly have drawn inspiration from people who have dealt with difficult times or who have difficult situations that will be the rest of their life, like my client, and how they interact with it, how they interact with the world, what they expect from the world, how they engage with people, and how that changes how the world engages with them. And that, to me, is where true style comes from. Without a doubt, in my client's situation with a wheelchair, and if there's anyone who's watching this who is in a wheelchair, there are absolutely some things we have to work around. There are absolutely some practical, things that I have to keep in mind. Like, we can never have a back detail on a dress because it's going to be uncomfortable for her for sitting. We usually try to keep the details along the top half of the dress, obviously. We always have to test, because she comes to me for a lot of formal things, we always have to test that when she sits, that it's beautiful when she sits in a wheelchair. So these are the things that have to be taken into consideration. It's not about ignoring the limitations, but about saying, how do I make the best of the limitations? So I hope that, Maureen, this helps you a little bit, but also for all of you watching who may not be dealing with a disability or long-term, permanent, short-term, that you can even look at the things in your life that you're wishing were different, that you wished were different, and that in your head you've started to believe that if only they weren't there, it would be easier. And that might not necessarily be the case, and that it's more about working with what you have and learning how to make the best of it, even if it sucks, and going out into the world with that level of confidence. So with that said, if any of you have questions for me, any question at all that you would like me to address in a video answer, I'd be happy to do it. You can email me. Find me on my website, bridgettereys.com. You can find me on Facebook, Bridgette Reys Style Expert. Follow me on Twitter at Bridgette Reys. Follow me on Instagram at Bridgette Reys. And subscribe here to my feed. Every week I am bringing a stylish answer to your style questions. Wishing you a great rest of the day, and thanks for tuning in.